Now you're gonna touch what I say and not what I do, and you cannot close your eyes. Look at me. You're gonna touch what I say, not what I do. Right? Touch your nose. Look at me. Touch your ears. Touch your chin. Touch your shoulder. Touch your head. Touch your shoulder. Touch your nose. Touch your head. Touch your elbow. Some of you have an elbow in a completely different place. I don't know what's going on with you guys. Okay, one more time. And don't try to be smarty pants. I've done this in the classroom. Miss Leal, watch. Sometimes you gotta really watch a language when you're teaching. Because they're like, they close their eyes and you're just like, yeah. All right, ready? Touch your elbow. Get out. Touch your shoulders. Touch your head. Touch your nose. Touch your chin. Touch your eyes. Touch your ears. Touch your mouth. All right, so what do I do? Is just a way of getting attention. There's several, with the kindergartens that go, hocus pocus, and everybody goes, everybody focus. And you're like that. So if you look online, they go, attention grabbers. And so, they go red robin. Whatever you want, create red one. So just to connect, we have a song here that I just taught. And here I am. Is this right? 3 fingers? No. How do I make this big?
Yeah, that one.
That little thing.
No, the other one.
That the little thing. Magic.
You made it.
I'm so my kid's getting embarrassed. Get out of there. Miss Leal, sit down. I'll fix it for you. All right. This is just a song to connect us. I'm going to teach you the song. And because when we're talking about trauma and a lot of things going on in our lives, sometimes we are holding whatever resentment or whatever's going on in our lives. So that worry, that thought, or whatever it is. So I'm inviting you to let go and let God take control of it. Whenever I'm really stressed about it, I stress a lot about lesson plans and students. And I'm having a hard time to let go. I sing the song over and over, and then I relax. So I'm going to lead, and you're going to be the echo with the help. Where's my singer? There. I just tell her the song. And this is the part that we sing together. Let go, let God, let God, let God, let God, and here. So I go. I can, and you repeat, I can. Okay, it goes. I can.
I can.
I can.
I can.
Let go.
Let go.
Let go.
Let go.
I will.
I will.
I will.
I will.
And everybody goes. Let God, let God, let God, let God. The kids, when they sing, the kids go, let God, let God. One thing you don't know about me, I love worshiping. So I go to concerts. I am the one that like this. And I don't care because I cry, it's pure catharsis. I feel the whole body shaking. Anyway, but don't share. Is it on YouTube now? Let's try. I can.
I can.
I can.
I can.
Let go.
Let go.
Let go.
Let go.
I will.
I will.
I will.
I
Now,
will.
let God, let God, let God, let God. Don't know.
Don't know.
Don't know.
Don't know.
What kind comes? What comes? Let go. Let go. And let God, let God, let God, let God. Oh, you need help me with this part. Closer. So I'm gonna sing and just hear it. And this part is the hardest one. You go. Fill me up with love. You can breathe. And then you're gonna say, with love. I know. Don't worry. Okay. Fill me, help me. Fill me up with love. With love. I don't feel it. With love.
With love.
Yeah, mean it. Like, fill me up with love. Let go of anything that's bothering you. Just fill me up with love. Okay. Fill me up with love. With love. Okay. So this part is like this. Is in my heart invitation, Lord. Just be with me right here in me. Yeah. I am as empty as I can be. Fill me up with love. With love. I can. I can. I can. I can. Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. I will. I will. I will. I will. Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. What comes? What comes? What comes? What comes? Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. And let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. Ready? Okay, here go. I'm gonna try with the part five. I'm trying. Let me try with this. Oh. Huh? I need a chair. I'm not that good yet that I can sing standing here. All right.
Sit in the chair, not the floor.
I can. I can. I can. I can. Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. I will. I will. I will. I will. Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. What comes? What comes? What comes? What comes? Let go. 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 Here's my heart invitation, Lord. Oh, be with me right here with me. Yeah. I am as empty as I can be. Fill me up with love. With love. I can. Last one. I can. Mean it. Okay. Mean it. I honestly, that place there now mean it. Okay. Don't hold it. Mean it. Okay, ready? I can. I can. I can. I can. Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. I will. I will. I will. I will. Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. What comes? What comes? What comes? Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. And let
as empty as I can be. Fill me up with love. With love.
Then it's just so I can let go,
Let go,
let go,
let go.
I will,
I will,
I will,
I will.
let go,
Let go, let go, let go.
let go,
Let go, let go, let go. Let go, let go, let go, let go.
All right, so that's the fun part now. Come here, Daniel. Woohoo! Let's party.
I'm ready.
Put the show on the road.
Oh, yeah.
Blow the popsicle fans.
It's not karaoke night. My sister said, I'm gonna do Journey on G, if you know who I'm talking about.
For the record, I have no idea what that
I
is.
know it's look at me, I can make things happen. I just learned that if you go with 3 fingers like this, I can do it.
That's right.
I learned something new today. So one way doesn't work, try another. So Danielle and I, we're gonna show 2 movies, no, short videos, 4 and 5 minutes. It's about parenting style. So you were going, while you were watching, try not to laugh or feel guilty. First time I go, ouch, I don't want to continue watching that.
Poker face.
Poker face, like, but you know what, it's okay. Because we have to, that's what we were talking about, the cycle. Your parents raised you in a way because that's how they were raised by their parents, and we just pass. But guess what? This world is changing. We need to cut the cycle. We need to educate yourselves, and it's okay. Now, if you watch this like I did, and you feel bad like I did, because I thought, okay, you did this with my daughter. It's okay. We are here to learn together. So after you watch this, I want you to think, how did your parents raise you? What style, parenting style, and how did this affect your life? What do you think? Tell me more about. Oh, well, how was you?
I was born in a rainy day back in.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
More as you get ready over there.
Yeah, tell me more. All right. All right. You know the person, I just love that lady. You're going to be seeing me talking about Dr. Becky Bailey. She has a wonderful book called Conscious Discipline. And she goes to schools and she helps, with the problems. And it's a video. And she, Dr. Bailey, she's going to play the child. And you're going to laugh and you see the parenting style, okay? Sure. Yeah, we see here? Yeah. Okay, we're going to
We're going to play the video, but lock the door.
Okay, wait, Vanessa is sadness. The first one is sadness and pause. Okay. But it's not, it's on that side. Oh, there's 2. I learned another thing today.
Sometimes they hide too. I just make you look understood.
Yeah, we have to for Carlos. She wants Carlos to see it. All right, the first one is, imagine, your child comes to you because the child is sad. Now, how are you going to react to the child when the child is sad? So she's going to show the different ways. And I always say, depending on my mood. If I'm in a good time and patient, I'm very patient. But if I'm angry, I say, not now. Or leave me alone. And then I know. Okay, let's wait for our friends.
Yeah.
All right.
Of course, of course.
No, by the way, cardiac radio for kids and for teens.
That's right. We want to show to you the team responsible for cardiac radio for teens and kids right here. Say hello.
Where you live right now?
Delaware.
Delaware.
They're from Delaware.
They get the trophy of who has come from the farthest.
Yes.
Well, also, you get a special prize if you know where Delaware is.
Somewhere on that side of the map. Okay, are you ready?
You ready?
So it's gonna be 2 videos, and it's gonna show different ways of handling a situation. One is gonna be with a little kid, although it's an adult playing Dr. Becky, she's playing the little kid. And the other one I'm gonna show with a teenager in high school. So we have an idea of both ideas, right? All right, I need to turn the light on.
We might turn the lights down a little bit, and you might be wondering, why is Dan holding the microphone out like the Christ? Because our folks who are doing the telecommute thing and watching through the video, their audio comes from here. So that's why we're trying to speak on the microphone, so you know. Thanks for your patience.
Okay, I'll hold it there.
No,
If you go like this,
okay.
it's how it
I got it, don't worry.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's wrong, honey? What's wrong? Oh my gosh, what's wrong? What happened?
Okay, read what it says. You can read, all of us parents, respond to feelings from the model we had right now. How did your parents feel when you were sad?
Mom, what's wrong, honey? What's wrong? Oh my gosh, what's wrong? What happened? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, what happened? What happened? Tell me. Tell me. The hamster died? Wait, what were you doing? What were you doing? Were you playing with it? What did you do, honey? Oh my gosh, how did you let the hamster die? Charlie died. Charlie died. We'll get another one. We'll get you another one. We'll get you another one. You know what? I know.
Oh, a little accident. All right, here we go.
Okay, so you know what happened, right? She died. So the mom now is saving. She has to save.
Know exactly who's got more, okay? But we have to get another one. We have to do this. We have to get another one. I'm going to fix this for you. We'll get another one, okay? You know what? Let me just get this turned off. Okay, all right. Yes, yeah, I know. Let's just, you know what? But forget Charlie. We're going to get you another one, a healthy one. I don't think Charlie was healthy. I think that's the problem. Charlie wasn't healthy at all. We're going to get you a healthy one. Let's just go right now. Come on, I'll get my purse. I'll get my coat. Oh, what's that look on your face? What are you giving me that look for, honey? What? My hamster died. Your hamster died. Yeah, they do that, sweetie. You know, we talked about this when you got the hamster. Remember how we said sometimes they don't last very long? Yeah, it's just, yeah.
It's little button.
Yeah, that's what they do, and they get stiff. Yeah, you probably noticed that. Yeah, we'll take care of it. You know what? I'll have your dad take care of it. I don't want to touch him. It's not a big deal, sweetheart. It's not a big deal. It's not
Charlie, he used to.
I know, Charlie did a lot of stuff. And remember, we talked about this when we were at the pet store. Hamsters, they come and go. They're like a dime a dozen. So it's not a big deal. You're going to be fine. You're fine. You're fine.
I'll never get another hamster as long as I live.
Oh, well, hopefully you'll rethink that, sweetheart. Hopefully you'll just rethink that. Oh, man. What now? Oh my gosh, what now? What?
Okay, my hamster died. Charlie, my hamster.
You know what? Didn't we just talk about this? You take no responsibility for things. Look at this. Who puts your clothes away every day? You take no responsibility for anything. No wonder he died. I saw you in there with him. You were not. This just is so
I
irritating to me.
fed him and I
did not.
watered him.
You did not. You
I
did not take
this
care of
is your
Charlie.
fault. I
This is
took
your-
care of Charlie.
This is your fault, and you know it.
I hate you.
You can hate me all you want. I hate you too.
Wow.
Ignore.
Oh, hi, honey. Yeah, hi.
You know Charlie?
Yeah, I know Charlie. Charlie, that rodent you have in your room.
No, Charlie.
Yeah.
He died.
Yeah.
Oh, I just found him.
Yeah.
He's laying there. He just
Yeah.
looks like he was cute.
Okay. Can you take these back to your room when you go, and then you can take care of that. Just wrap them in here. Just wrap them in there. That would be great. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and don't put those on your bed. Hang them up, sweetheart. You need to hang them up. Yeah, that's a good girl. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Charlie's dead.
Yeah, and Charlie, when you wrap him up, make sure he gets into the trash. That would be great. Okay. All right. Go ahead, honey. Everything's good. Go.
Mom.
Oh, honey. Hi. Ooh.
The hamster died.
Yeah.
I'm just in a room going.
Oh, honey, it is. That's so
He did.
I loved that hamster.
I named him Charlie.
Yeah,
Charlie's
Charlie.
dead.
And you had
We're not going to flush him in the toilet like the fish, are we?
No.
Okay.
sweetie. No, we'll take care of what's going to happen. But right now.
Oh, man, Charlie's gone.
Yeah, Charlie's gone. Yeah, honey, that is so hard. It is. It's hard. It's hard. Something like this happens.
Mom, make it better. Make it better. You got to do something. Charlie's dead.
Yeah, Charlie's dead. And that's really hard. You love Charlie so
I love
much.
Charlie.
You were so good with Charlie, too.
Baby, your eyes little thinking, yeah, I never do it again.
When you're ready, we'll decide what's best for parting with Charlie. And we're going to get through this together. We are. You're not alone. You're not alone.
You'll be there.
Yes. In fact, we're going to be there right now together. Let's go right now, and we'll take care of little Charlie.
Okay, Mom. Let's go.
Now the teenager. Go to the next video. Anger. Now it's with an older kid. I just wanted to age different because some of them have teenagers.
I hate my teacher. I hate my teacher. You wouldn't believe what she did today. You would not believe, Mom. Look, Mom, I hate her. I hate her.
I'm listening.
Everyone. She picks on everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone.
I'm listening, honey. You know what? Could you,
You want to know what she did?
what, honey?
Do you want to? What about Marcus? What about Marcus? Do you remember the other day?
Yeah, I remember, Marcus. Here, take this. Why don't you just here, go ahead. Just start drawing. What? What? What do you,
Whatever.
you don't have that, honey, come, just give me the dish then. Give me the dish. All right, good. Okay, good.
Mom, I hate my teacher.
You do not come in here this way. You do not come in here yelling at me. What do you think you're doing? Hang that up. Hang that up right now. This is ridiculous. I've had it with your mouth. I have had it with your mouth.
But Mom!
You want me to do this again? You pick that up. You pick that up right now. You pick this up. You.
Mom! teacher. I absolutely hate my teacher. You would not believe what she did to Marcus. You wouldn't believe what she did to me.
You like your teacher. She's nice, honey. You like your teacher.
Do you know what she did to Marcus? Do you know what? No, you care what she did to Marcus.
No, it doesn't matter what she did to Marcus, honey. You know, you were good at school. You're a good student, sweetie. You're a good student. You like her. And you're good at school. You're a nice person, sweetheart. You're a nice person. So you just have to remember that. Remember how you're a nice person and you like people. Yeah, you do. Yeah. Yeah. You want a little snack? You want me to get you a snack? Let's just let me see. I'm sure I've got some ice cream in the fridge. How about that? Okay. Yeah. Here you go, sweetie. Here, you know what? I'll just get you a spoon. Here you go. Enjoy.
Can I have the whole thing?
Oh, of course. Yeah. It's better now, isn't it? It feels better now, doesn't it? Yeah.
Mom! What happened? I hate my teacher.
What did she do?
You wouldn't believe what she did. You know what she did to Marcus first? First, she went name one of the boys, and then she sends him out to the room, and then you know what she did to me? She humiliated me in front of the whole class.
She is not getting away with this. She is not going to get away with this.
She should.
You know what? I'm calling her right now.
You call her. Can you get her? Mom, do something. She was horrible. You know what she said to me? She said, I was stupid. She said,
No, I can't wait.
She said, I was stupid.
She said, you know what? We're taking you out of that school.
In front of the class.
You know what? I'm going to we're getting you out of that school, honey. We are going to get you out of that school. We are going to make this better for you. Nobody treats my girl that way.
Nobody treats my girl that way. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm the one that you love. I'm the one that takes care of you.
Yes, you love me. You're the best.
Yeah.
You're the best. Oh, you're the best. Thank you. And we have a testimony.
Oh, I'll help you. I'll help you do it. I'll help you.
If I don't have to go, I'm going to do it.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, we don't even need her.
Mom, you wouldn't believe it. I hate my teacher. You would not believe what she did to me today. You wouldn't believe what she did to Marcus.
Yes, and you're going to tell me. Take a deep breath.
But Mom, okay, Mom, okay. But I gotta tell you, okay. She calls us up in front of the school, right up in front of the board, and she has us do these problems. Marcus goes up first. You know, of course, everybody laughs. They're always laughing at Marcus. So they walk up there, he laughed, and I'm like, I'm not going. I put my head down, you know what she did, and she called on me. Anyway, she calls on me. I go up there, I work the problem, and right in front of everybody, she says, well, you didn't get it right.
Oh.
You're not working hard enough.
And you were hoping she would really understand how hard that was for you. You were hoping that she would understand that you were really taking a risk to go up there. Yeah.
I mean, that was scary to walk up in front of everybody.
It is scary.
And you know, math isn't my strong thing.
Yeah. And it would have been so much more helpful if she had been able to really give you that encouragement, that confidence. And yet, you did handle it.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did handle it. You got through it.
And nobody laughed. At least Marcus. Okay.
Yeah, we'll work on that too. We'll work on how you might be helpful to Marcus too. Right now, what might be helpful to you? What might be helpful to you right now, and then we'll work on what might be helpful to you the next time she calls on you and you don't know what to do.
Okay, so right now I just kind of want to go outside and walk around a little bit.
Yeah, because that's one of the ways.
With math.
Because you know what? I'm feeling your hands and I can feel that you're really tense.
Yeah.
You're still frustrated. You're still feeling frustrated. So take a walk outside. We'll work on the math. Sounds like a plan. And then you know what we're going to do too? When that moment comes, when you're sitting at your desk, what is it that will help you? We'll find that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going outside. See you, Mom?
Yeah. Oh, honey, your pack.
Okay, I'll put that. I'm going to drop that over here. See you a little bit later.
She has tons of ideas. But in quote, what is it that she do when you're coaching? One thing you notice was many. She stopped. She listened. What else? Eye contact. What she do with her hand? Touch. What Vanessa was saying. Touch. And then she was speaking. Now, what did she tell the child? Read. She's coaching. She's not saying. She's teaching. Like, this is what they have to do. So next time when that happens, she knows. So now with your threesies.
I'm gonna be here now.
I know.
I want you to think what was your parent or style, your parents' style? It was like dismissing, ignoring, how did that affect you? What was the effect that it had in your life? You wanna just explain that? And I'm gonna do it off.
Sure. As you noticed, a lot of emotions are learned behaviors. So sometimes we have this learning piece that takes place even unconsciously, and we model that back to our children, to everybody that's around us. But yet, we have never been taught about emotion, have we? So how do we know what kind of emotions do we have? Now we're going to go back and do a little bit thinking as to how we received information, how we were coached, even if unconsciously, from our parents. And it's important to acknowledge, too, that our parents never intentionally did this, right? Sometimes their styles just happen because they also learned from their parents. It's not that we're intentionally trying to punish you or be dismissive. It's that sometimes they don't know how to handle that either. But we don't think about that until we are exposed to another opportunity when we either have kids or we're just thinking about the way we do things, and we're going to try to think a little bit about how this happened. So we're going to break down into groups, right? We already know the threesies. So pick your threesies. Twosies are also okay, your elbow partners there. Whoever's close to you. Does everybody have a partner already? Do you guys know who you're going to be with? And we're going to talk a little bit about, based on what you saw, and you remember the little differences, right? There is punish, there is the ignore, there is a dismiss, there's the save, right?
I'll save you.
So
How was it?
how was it for you growing up? How did your parents approach problems with you? Okay. All right, let's break into groups, people. All right, everyone. How's everyone doing? Do we need more time? We're good? Raise your hand if you can hear me. Okay, do we have enough time to talk about it? So we're going to do a little secret polling, right? You don't need to raise your hand over here, but you can just put your thumb like in front of your chest so nobody else can see. But we're very, so you can just look this way, and nobody else will see, but just keep your hand here. We just want to informally know how many of you had parents who were primarily
They're just like this.
Yeah. Some of you are very eager to let everybody know, which is okay. We appreciate that. But you can also do it right here in front of your chest, and nobody else will see but us. And we're not keeping track of who said what. We just want to have an overall. We're very serious about this, right? This is really important stuff. It's really basic stuff, and it stays right there with us. How many of you have had parents that had the dismiss approach more often than not? All right. How many of you had parents that tended to do more of the ignore approach? All right, it happens. How many of you had parents more on the save side of things, trying to fix things for you? Now, how many of you have parents who coached you through this? Great. Great. All right. So it happens quite often, right? And so we're talking about breaking the cycle here. Now, the same group, let's do part 2, which is, how do you think this has affected you and your personality in dealing with other people? Not just your kids, but everybody else. Ready? All right. Let's talk a little bit more. In another 5 minutes or so, we'll reconvene.
How did it affect?
How did it affect you in your relationships in general? Relationships? Of course. Fine. They're fine.
No, bem. All done. No. I'm going to find a way to charge the rich.
One more question. One more question as you're working through this. One more question as you're working through this. A natural progression is, now that you know how it affected, what is it that you're willing and ready and able to do about it moving forward? What can you do to revert that conditioning that you have received? Right?
Or do something else.
All right, everyone. Did everyone have a chance to share and listen? Do you need more time? Or are you okay? All right, thanks. A little bit more time? 1 more minute. 1 more minute. 1 more minute, everyone. 1 more minute. All right, everyone. Eyes back up here in front. Let's start wrapping it up. Let's wrapping it up. So, let's do a quick recap of what we just done, which was a great dynamic brought forth by our friend Bernadete over there. Woohoo! Indeed, indeed. If you find the off switch on Bernadete and all her energy, let me know, because she's always so energetic. Right now is off. So here's what we've done. We looked at in this dynamic about different ways of responding to emotional challenges. And we thought a little bit about how we grew up with it. And we also reflected a little bit about what is it that we could do to change the cycle or become more adept at coaching ourselves and people through it, rather than just simply reacting to this or paying it forward the way that we have been told or modeled to do enact things. Is there anyone that would like to share any kind of epiphany of realization that you've had about this, or what kind of commitment that you have moving forward on how to behave differently? You don't have to tell your story. That's not what we're asking for. Is does anybody have an idea of like, okay, moving forward, I want to do this because I realized this? Anyone's willing?
My parents, the way they were educated was punishment. So they dismissed a lot of things. And myself, on the other hand, because I was dismissed, I tried to save my daughter. So it's just trying to go back to that coach instead of creating another cycle that is not.
Love it. That's a great level of reflection there. That's fantastic. Thank you. Did anybody else have a similar realization?
I had my father, he was a coaching guy, and my mom, she was the one blame others, but my kids, they're perfect. So it was two contrasts, two opposites. And then when I had my son, my oldest one, he's 23. In the first 3 years, I had a huge struggle to get a balance. Because do what I say, but don't do what I do, and don't see what others do. So it took me a while to realize that I need a balance. Otherwise, it would be another unbalanced way of growing my kids. So it was kind of nice. It was a deep lesson, self-awareness and self-understanding, goals for the self, etc.
Did anyone else had a realization that, oh my God, my parents are human? Right? Because we put our parents in this pedestal, right? And all of a sudden, oh my God, they're human. They're not perfect, right? That generally happens after you have a kid. You're like, oh, my parents were human, right? Did anybody else want to share anything else? Did anybody else have a realization that pertained not only about your kids, but maybe the way you act with your friends, or cousins, or parrots, or parakeets? Anything other that's not necessarily related to family? Did anybody realize how it flows over to our social circle as well? Yeah? Now, quick straw poll again. Who is happy with the way that they interact with others and deal with emotional challenges? Let me ask again. Who thinks that this is an area that we can all work on? That was a guinea. That was a guinea. If you didn't raise your hand, you're probably not in this planet. In which case, I want to ride from you on the way out. All jokes aside. But, so this is a great invitation again for us to reflect on who we are and what we do through our habits and how they are influenced by those around us. And so I really think it was a fantastic thing that Bernadete brought to us, a moment of reflection. And I hope that we'll continue to have that moment of reflection, not just about our parents, but about questioning the way that we process information, that we deal with feelings, and so forth, which is really always a great lesson in general, right? Which is a great transition to the next part of our event today. But before that, I want to say, Bernadette, is there anything else you want to say to wrap this thing up? So big round of applause for Bernadette, everyone. And clap for yourselves too for being willing and ready and able to engage in this process. I know this is like granola level 5, right? But we're gonna try to keep granola-ing you up. That's great. So we have 3 or 4 minutes. How are you guys feeling? Do you need to stretch your leg really quickly, go to the bathroom, come back before we start in 4 or 5 minutes? Or can you go? You can go on? So go to the bathroom or go on? Go on. Go on? All right, all right. Let's find out. No?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you turn this front part off? Maybe that would help.
Yes.
Oh, it's there like intermingled.
Bring it down a little bit.
They're intermingled.
The screen down a little bit. Just
No, it's okay. It's on purpose. No, I cut it on purpose. Like it's not. Looks like it's cut on the bottom, but that's how it's meant to be.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so woo, breathe. We've been here for a while. I actually have an app on my watch that does exactly that. It goes like a little ball when it goes up and down like this, it tells you to breathe. It triggers every once in a while when my heartbeat goes up. Because we all go through that, we just don't notice. So today we're going through the discovery piece of trying to dive deeper into our feelings, which is really exciting. And I'm really thrilled about this, about being here with you today, because I feel that we are getting a really great exposure from different ways of looking at things. It was great to hear from Vanessa around the emotions in the brain, and to start this conversation about how is it that we learn and deal with our emotions, because let's be honest, most of us were not taught to identify or manage our relationships or emotions. We never went to school for that. In fact, it's quite possible that most of our parents made a point not talking about emotions, especially if you grew up abroad in Brazil, and especially if you're a male, right? Boys don't cry. And they've done a disservice to us, in a way, but we have to understand that that was also what's done to them, right? So we want to break that cycle. So we start talking about those emotions and how the brain works. And we had a fantastic opportunity to dive deeper into how a classroom works too, and the challenges that educators face in a classroom. When Bernadete brought here her challenges with the classroom and how she handled that to build something greater, to give kids a sense of belonging and community, so that then they can start kicking in into the intellectual sphere and grow academically. Right? So we had a very clinical approach, we have a very practitioner approach, and today what I want to talk to you about a little bit is I want to zoom out from a general education perspective, especially for those of us who are parents and who might be struggling in understanding how to support our kids, and also try to crystal ball a little bit what education, formal education, is going to probably look like in our country in 50 years from now. Before I do that, though, I want to share with you a couple of things so that you know who's talking to you. I'm obviously a Spiritist, but I also professionally work with education reform. And I am dedicated to the idea that every kid deserves a great quality education in the state of California. And that might look different for different kids. The reason I do the work I do, which is trying to create innovative schools and different things around the state, is because I know full well that kids have different chances depending on where is it that they live. Unfortunately, in our country, in our state, in general in our country, the future of a kid, academically speaking, can be almost predetermined by which zip code you live, because we are limited to the school choices that we have. And that's even before we begin to understand the spirit, right? I'm just talking about from a layman's perspective. So I want to do both. I want to talk to you about the layman's perspective educational system, and I want to slap a little spiritual layer on top of that, because I personally feel that that's the missing link for all of us, especially when it comes to education. But we know that not all kids receive a great education. That's unfortunate. Because let's be honest with you, and I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but all of you here today, chances are your kids are going to be okay. Why? Because you are here trying to learn about it, trying to learn more about how to educate your kids. But what about those parents who can't be here, who don't know how to be here, who work 2 or 3 jobs and by themselves and have no idea of the existence of the Spirit, that have not had a chance to understand that part? Who speaks for them? Who takes care of them? We do, as a society. So, although most people say, well, I shouldn't really worry about education because I don't have kids or my kids have graduated, I want to impart on you, if I could, that education is everybody's business, every citizen's business, because we have to pay attention to our society and the future of our society, whether you have kids or not. Truly, even though it's a cliche, it is true, belongs to the future generation. So we want to talk a little bit about that, and along the way, hopefully we'll have a little bit of fun, depends on how it goes. I am passionate about this. So sometimes I might not get so funny. I might get funny looking. But the point here is we have a new generation. I think we've all noticed that. And we are struggling to understand how to make sense of it all. So what I want to do today is to talk about this new generation first. Because if we're going to educate them, we're going to need to understand where they are. And this is where Spiritism really brings us a lot of information that traditional educators are not privy to. But nevertheless, I want to make a point that there's basically two challenges the way I look at it about the new generation. One, there's challenges of the physical world, things that are happening now in our physical world that happen independent of your belief in spirituality or not. And the second thing, too, challenges in the spiritual world, challenges that we understand are taking place from a spiritual perspective. Hang in there with me, and I hope that will become a little bit clearer. Let's go through this. And let's talk earnestly if we can. So a lot of us are here, and we have some kind of connection to Brazil. Most of us. And now we find ourselves in a new culture, in a new country, and many of us are parents, and we find that our kids are growing up not only in a different country, but in different times. And that is so challenging. It is very challenging because our natural tendency is to want to gravitate towards that which is familiar and comfortable. So we want our kids to have the experiences that we had growing up. I had a wonderful childhood. I would love for my son to experience some of the same things. However, it might not be possible because these are different times in a different place. And so it's hard for us sometimes as parents living abroad in a different country to come to terms that our kids may experience a context which is very, very different than the ones we grew up with, and that's okay. They're going to speak probably a different language than the ones we grew up with. Even though we might speak Portuguese with them at home, they're going to be learning English in their schools. They're going to be interacting with their peers at school. They're going to spend more time being exposed to English than their mother tongue, probably. You can help it, right? You can fight that for so many years. But once they go into school, they will spend more time in school than you can talk to them at home with. So think about this for a second. So it's really a hard thing for a parent to come to terms with that because all that is familiar with us, it's not what's going to be familiar for these kids, and letting go is hard. Does that make sense? So that's one challenge that's really hard. The other challenge is, regardless of the immigratory thing, the culture thing, there's also the modern times. We're also growing in a time and place that's different than the one that we grew up in. Many of us may say, hey, I grew up with friends on my street, and we played ball, hockey, basketball, and we went out, and the world was smaller. Nowadays, things are different. We have technology, the whole globalization thing, so you can have access to information like this. It changes the dynamics of things. Why do I say that? Because your friends now are not those who are right next to you. Your friends are all those that are everywhere in the world if you have a Facebook account. You no longer have 5 or 6 friends that you have no choice but deal with in your street, right? Because that's what people you're going to play with. You have 1,000 friends on Facebook that you don't really interact with. And it creates a whole set of problems and challenges for the youth. Because the challenge nowadays, as I see it, it's not access to information. It's what we do with it. I want to do a little stop here and think about it. Throughout our history, the challenge was, how do we get the information? So reading and writing, it's something that's very new to us as a humanity, as a species. I mean, the democratization of reading and writing. There's always been people who read and wrote, but those were the elite, those who could afford to go to school and who could afford to have skin, basically leather to writing, until the paper was invented. Vellum, the way books were written, was they basically were carved out of a thin sheet of leather, and you would buy a book only if you had a lot of money, because somebody had to manually copy that, right? Those monks and so forth. Only in the 1500s, in 1500, when Gutenberg came out with the printing press, the method of printing things on paper, books were made cheaper. And so when books were made cheaper, it was great. It was the beginning of the democratization of information. Now the middle class can afford books. And then, there came the internet. Anybody and the mothers and their parakeet can now find information or create information. So the challenge now is no longer having access to anything, but is finding out if the 3 million results that you get when you type in ice cream on Google are any good. It has required us to change into a higher thinking mode that we're not yet fully prepared for, most of us. So why do I say that? Because kids are exposed to this at an earlier age. So they go to the web or do whatever it is, and they have all this incredible amount of information floating around. And that changes the way things happen because there are no more authorities for them. They just go out and grab the information. Before you go to somebody who is really smart and say, wow, this guy knows a lot about math. You have to go and talk to him about finding something. Oh, wow, that guy knows a lot about birds. Right? And today, kids go on the internet and in 5 seconds, they have access to a bunch of information. Now, that's also a problem because it has depersonalized relationships a little bit. What do I mean by that? Because we now have 1,000 friends on Facebook that we don't often talk to, but they're there. We get really courageous. And when somebody posts something, we are really bold and brave to let them know what we really think. Right? So we have all these trolls out there because we don't have the courage to look them in the eye and say that to them, but we will write it down because it's safe to do it from a distance. So the internet has changed the way we act with people, and we've got a lot of people who are really mean to each other because it's very safe for you to do it from the comfort of your couch. Because you say that to somebody and you feel like you've done something and you show them and nothing happens. They're not going to come knock on your door. They're not going to argue back with you if you don't really want to. You can just turn your computer off. So that has disconnected us a little bit and has made us less mindful of the impact we have on other people's feelings. If that's already hard for us that are grown-ups, imagine for these tiny little humans who are still trying to understand their bearings socially. Kids get bullied, cyberbullied. It's hard for them emotionally to handle all of this, which makes it easy for us to understand why some researcher says this generation that's growing up now is the most anxious and stressed generation that has ever been because they're exposed to so much more social context and things going on online by many people that they're really being mean to them than we were when we were growing up. So it makes them act differently. And we've got to be mindful of that. We need to be mindful of that side. And we'll talk hopefully a little bit more about that too. And another aspect that has happened here in modern times, and this is not necessarily a criticism, is the erosion of the nuclear family. We have working parents. And so parents are out in the wild, and by the wild I mean work. And that, which means that oftentimes kids don't have much of that one-on-one time that we used to have when we didn't have this kind of society, which may be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you're raised, right? But oftentimes, FaceTime with parents is also diminished. And we all know parents are the first educators, right? So these are the challenges of the times that we're having now. So educators everywhere are having to deal with a bunch of kids that might be coming from different cultures, with parents who are not familiar about the new culture and oftentimes resist this change. In modern times where information is readily available and forces us to act differently, and we'll talk about more how educators have to change too when we talk about the classroom, in a very complex social system that we are not teaching our kids to handle. That makes it really difficult in the classroom, right? That's the physical aspect of things. So far, so good? Okay. In addition to that, we also have challenges of the spiritual world, and we have now what I call the great melting pot, spiritually speaking. We also know that we're all spirits. Hopefully that's not news to you here. If it is, join one of our groups, come back, we'll talk more about it. But I'm going to go for the assumption today, and I apologize if you aren't fully familiar with Spiritism just yet, that we are immortal spirits, and that we reincarnate through time, and we try to evolve and get better. Now, the interesting thing is our planet also evolves and gets better. So what does that mean? It means that we are getting at a critical junction in our history as a planet, where the planet needs to graduate from 5th grade to 6th grade. And all those kids, which are us, who are fighting this progression will be held back while the rest of the class moves forward. This is happening to us as a world right now. So, but the good thing is that Divine Mercy is so amazing, so fantastic, that a lot of kids who were struggling with it also have a chance right now to do the final test to see if they can follow along us to 6th grade. So what we have is these hardened spirits who are refusing to move forward, but there might be a little chance that they can move forward. They're being incarnated right now to have the last chance to take the test to see if they can kind of move with everybody to 6th grade. We have those who are already ready to go to 6th grade and are troubled by the fact that these people don't want to go to 6th grade, so they're very sensible to things. And we have a whole new bunch of students coming in from 6th grade, from elsewhere, already coming to coach us and to mentor us to get ready to 6th grade. These spirits from a different dimension, which oftentimes we refer to as indigo kids. They might not necessarily be more morally advanced, but they are more intellectually advanced, and they're used to doing things differently. And because of that, they also do something really fantastic for us, which is a little bit complex, but they're also helping us evolve physically. Because they are more advanced spiritually, intellectually, their perispirit and their mold of who they are is slightly different. So they are agreeing to come back to our planet, incarnate here, to help us improve our physical body so that in the near future, our brains and our nervous system will be better so we can grow, because our bodies also develop with time, right? So basically what they're doing in an act of love or need is they are agreeing to use really tight clothes for a while, right? Do you know when you put that hot clothes on and it's like, oh, how do you feel when that happens? Not comfortable, right? You're like, right? So what's happening oftentimes is we're having a lot of people, a lot of kids, who are not necessarily comfortable in their skin, and they struggle with that. And we sometimes, because we are not used to it, read that as a deficit disorder or a shortcoming of sorts or whatever it is, right? My point here is that we need to change the way we look at things and how we behave and do things, because the world around is changing from a physical perspective, from all spiritual perspective too. So these are the kids that are coming to us at our schools, which is really hard because it makes it very heterogeneous. Our classes, our group of people are very different now, and that's hard for us to digest because we're used to homogeneous things. We're used to things look the same. When things look the same, we are often happy about it because it's safe, it's secure, it's easy. Right? But when there's people who do things differently, shake things up. And we have trouble with that. We still have trouble with diversity in this planet, but we are going to overcome it. But we have diversity in all kinds of shapes and forms, and that's a difficult thing for educators too, because we've been trained on how to educate kids in a way, but we're getting kids that are slightly different, have different needs. Does that make sense so far? You're with me? All right. Okay, so just from a cultural perspective, let's do a brief history of childhood. What it was to be a kid, right? Before the industrial era, children were seen as small adults. They weren't like this cutely lovely things that we always so cute, right? Why? Because we had to desensitize ourselves a little bit. There was a high mortality rate because we didn't have great medicine. We didn't have a lot of money. And the truth is, kids oftentimes died at a very high rate, more than 50% before the Industrial Revolution. So, as a mechanism of self-defense, it was not uncommon in some cultures to not name a kid until he was 1 year old. Because you don't want to get attached to a kid and then suffer its loss. So, wait until he's 1, then we'll give him a name. Because so many of them die. Why get hurt? So we were a little desensitized to that. This is hard because we don't understand that because we don't remember that easily. But we have a little bit of a standoff-ish relationship with kids. Now, the Industrial Revolution came about and that changed. Right? We were able to produce more goods and so forth. And we started having more of a nuclear family. The mothers were stay-at-home moms because we got better financially. And so for better or for worse, they could give a little bit more attention for the kids, right? But now what's happening again in the modern times? Again, we're having working parents, So that is also making a challenge for us to go back from the model back into a model where we don't have parents at home all the time. And they're also getting an earlier exposure to society like we talked about, like social means and everything else, and urban living when we have lots of people living in one place as opposed to living on a farm. Back in the day, 100 years ago, if you think about it, 110, 15 years ago, before the invention of the car, people were not likely to move more than 15 miles from the place they were born. Your life revolved around 20 miles from where you were born. Then Henry Ford came, he invented the car, and that started to change for most of us. Of course, there were always people who traveled, always people who saw the world, but that was not the norm. And now we commute more than 50 miles oftentimes in a day. Isn't that interesting? So our world expands and grows tremendously. So childhood has also changed. It's also a shorter period of time because there's so much more things. So there's a lot of things going on. Does it make sense so far? All right, we're laying the foundation for a lot of things here. So let's talk about a couple of things here. This great educator, John Dewey, said something that really touches my heart, and I think is a beautiful thing. He says, if we teach children today like we taught them yesterday, we rob them of tomorrow. If we do the same things we've been doing in the past today, just because we've been doing them, we are shortchanging our kids because things are changing. We're not preparing them for the future. And perhaps there are no other way, or no other place that has stayed so much in the past as education has. Bear with me here. You know what this is? A classroom. Do you know when this is? 100 years ago. Yes. If we change the haircuts, some of the haircuts, they're coming back, and some of the clothes, has anything virtually changed from the classroom you see today? Might be a little bit smaller. You might have whiteboards instead of blackboards. But basically, you still have kids sitting in the desk most of the time looking forward to a teacher in a podium of sorts. Right? Now, if you were to walk in a hospital 100 years ago and walk into a hospital today, would you see the same thing?
No.
You would not. If you walk into a department store 100 years ago, today, not the same thing. But yet, we are educating kids with the same model. Look forward, look at this sage on the stage, this teacher, who's going to teach you all these things because it's an authority of things that should not be questioned. Listen from that teacher and move on when you hear a bell. Right? That makes sense when we were preparing them for the jobs of the past. When their jobs were repetitive, right? When you had a switchboard and all you had to do was plug in, which was a good job, right? You have calls, wait please, wait please, connect people. Or when you were the local Uber driver at the time, driving people around without the app, right? Not to take away from Uber, I love Uber, right? I'm just saying that the jobs that we had at the time, they were very straightforward, very, very individualistic. You can accomplish that task that way. However, if we go back here and think about it, the jobs of today are not the same. People are expected to change careers 5 to 6 times in their lifetime. I'm not talking about jobs. I'm talking about careers. And so the skills that you needed to prepare yourself were not the same. This fits great in the industrial era, where all you need people to do is to do very simple things on themselves. Press this button, do this, do that. Right? And then the bell comes in just like the factories, because that's where we're shipping them afterwards to, and tells you when you're done with a day. We all probably experienced that bell. Right? And we always probably had teachers say, oh, we're not done, we're not done. Everybody, the bell moved away, right? So we were being conditioned to sit down, not ask questions, look forward, take knowledge from somebody who may or may not be an authority on things, but that's what we have to accept. And then when the day's done, go back home and do work by ourselves. Now, the works of today are not like that. I don't know about you, but I find a lot of time when I try to hire somebody to work on our team, to find people who have the skills that we need them to have, which are none of these, which are the skills of asking questions, knowing how to work in group, and frankly, figure out what the work is. Oftentimes we say, here's your job description, but you got to figure it out. What is it that you need to do, right? Henry Ford, another guy that we talked about before, which I really like in a lot of ways, and in other ways not so much, said something that's great. There are two types of people that interest a good organization. Those that don't do what they're told, and those who only do what they're told. So nowadays, what you need to do is you need to get everything that you need to get done as part of your job, and then you have to figure out what else you should be doing as part of your job that's not officially part of your job. And that critical thinking process is not often derived from a way of imparting knowledge into people's heads, right? So what we're seeing in education is a fantastic need to change the way we do things. So what we are going to see more and more now is this change in even our schools, our traditional schools, on how education is delivered. Teachers, especially the young ones, are no longer going to mind whether students are sitting down in a straight line, because some of them are not comfortable. I mean, you're not comfortable sitting down in a chair for 5-6 hours. And by the way, if you need to stretch your legs and walk back and forth, it's not going to bother me at all, right? Because everybody has their own needs and their own things. Stretch, go back and forth, right? We're going to see more and more in their classrooms. It's not a sign of disrespect if a kid stands up. He just physically needs that. In fact, a lot of the schools that sometimes they visit, they've done some really great things, which is they put some yoga balls in the back of the class for those kids that can't sit still. Their body is moving, right? You know the surfers? You've been there? The dancers, right? Mentally, they're there. They're with you. They're connected. They want to learn, but they have this physical thing. So they sit on the little yoga ball in the back. They bounce around, not disrupting anybody. Everybody's fine, and they're learning. So a single adjustment, even to the way that we delivered education, changes the way a kid receives that information. We're also going to see this format that we're talking about. We talked about the sage on the stage, right? Google has done away with that. If you're a teacher, you know this. You say out there, write something, and then maybe you hear a little hand, like 5 seconds later, say, no, mister. It says here on Wikipedia or the National Geographic that I don't know, I'm going to make something up, that the Australian bat actually flies 25 miles an hour, not 15, right? So it's really a hard thing for an educator, because the educator up front is no longer the holder of the content knowledge, which is something that we already knew, but our ego didn't want to believe. We can't possibly know everything. So the role of the teacher is also changing to being the role of a mentor. It goes from the sage on the stage to the guide on the side. Much the same way, tada, our spiritual mentors and guides do with us in the spiritual realm. When we read No Solar and so forth, do we see people going to classes? Did Angelis have to go to class every day from 8 to 5 and got some free time after the bell rang? No, he was getting his hands dirty. He was working, and he would talk to a mentor and guide every once in a while to probe him when he was stuck. This is what's going to happen with our kids here on Earth. Prepare for the revolution. This is going to be beautiful in 15 years. It's going to confuse the heck out of parents. It has already started with Common Core. Why? Common Core always gets people. I always see a face or two. Why? Because it's changing the way we are measuring results and want to deliver things. What do I mean by that? We were told when we're young, for instance, math, plug this formula in, and if you can work the mechanics of mathematics, you'll get a result and you're done. That's no longer acceptable. You need to understand why you're doing it, how the formula was actually created. And then you have to explain the result out in a way that's not like 8. And this interdisciplinary thing is a start of great things, but it's really difficult because it's very different than we as parents and students have done in the past. So it shakes us up. And on top of that, we oftentimes have bad execution, as it takes time to implement things. So teachers are not trained on how to do it, and then they fight back too, and then it's a mess. It's going to be a mess in the beginning, but it's going to be great long term when we do this better, right? But so this move from the sage on the stage to the guide on the side, it's a beautiful thing because it rethinks the way that we do information. Think about this with me here for a second. When we were growing up, and I mean 5 years ago when we were in school, right? No? 6 years ago, sorry people. What happened? We went to school, the teacher stood up here, delivered a lecture, a talk, you took your notes, you went home, and then you did your exercises, right? And then it was hard sometimes not so much. Then at home, maybe you got help from your parents, maybe you didn't. Came back the next day, correct those things, move on to the next topic. Now, if you got it right, great. If you didn't, great. We're moving on because we can't spend time on it. But a model that we already have in our universities is going to probably be the prevalent model. We're going to do what we call flipped instruction. Instead of the teacher delivering the content for the students, and then the students going home and doing exercises, we're going to flip that. We're going to tell the students to go home, they're going to watch this YouTube video, they're going to read this book, kind of like we do in college. And then we're going to go to the classroom, and in the classroom, we're going to work on those problems together. And when you're stuck, the teacher will come to you and help you get unstuck with the things that you don't know. You see how that changes? Very different. Because now you're utilizing the teacher in a way that it was meant to be, to guide you through things. That's how education was back in the day, for instance, in Greece. One-to-one mentorship. But the problem is, only those that could afford to do that. Doing that in a public system is hard because you have to have one teacher for every student. We can't afford that. We don't know how to do that. So we've done this. But now that's slightly changing. Research shows us that the biggest factor in academic achievement is one-on-one time with a teacher. So what and I'm crystal balling here a little bit, what you're going to see in some schools that are already doing this is beautiful, is we're going to find schools trying to find time somewhere to give students that one-on-one attention. I'll give you an example so you understand what I'm talking about. My wife runs schools, and one of the things she does is she does a rotational model where for part of the day, let's say for 20 minutes, the kids go on a computer and work individually on a computer on different things. So let's say that you are really good at math and you've done your math, so now you're working on English. And while I'm not very good at math, so I need to spend more time on math. So we're not doing the same thing on the computers at the same time. We're going at our own pace. After that, we're going to work here on the table together as a team of like 10 students as opposed to 20, or let's say 8 or 7. We're going to work collaborative on something, exercising our ability to come together and work together as a team, which is what we need nowadays more than anything else. While that's happening, there's another group of 7 or 8 who are working with a teacher. We're getting coached on those things that they're stuck on because the teacher knows they're stuck on because you can see the data from the program that you were doing before. So the teacher will know, well, Bernadette is really great at math, so she doesn't need help with math. So I'm going to help Daniel because he's stuck on algebra. Right? So the teacher can spend a little bit more time with me, giving me that 5 minutes or 10 minutes that we need to push me forward. This is also going to change the way we look at classrooms and grades. So you know how we have 5th grade, 4th grade, 6th grade, and it's all like 1 year at a time. Chances are this might change a little bit with time. You might find multi-age grouping. You might find 4th and 5th grade together, 6th and 7th grade together, because the students might be bunched together, but they can kind of work at different paces. So the whole group of people at once might not make as much sense. And what you might also find that's actually very prevalent today is mastery-based grading. What does that mean? Who's familiar with Khan Academy? Have you heard about Khan Academy? Khan Academy is this free thing you can go online, Khan, K-H-A-N, Academy, it's free. It's amazing. And you can do math exercises there. You learn about something and then you take a quiz. And if you know the results, you move forward. And if you don't, you read it, you watch a video, and then you take it again and you go. And you can only progress once you've got it right. That's different than what we've been told to do throughout times, which is, here's the average. Let's say it's 70% or a C or a B, whatever it is. If you get the bare minimum, you get to advance to the next level. Right? The problem is, let's say that you got 70% right and you advance to the next level of math. And you did that two years in a row. You've left a 30% gap every year. When you get to 4th or 5th grade, which requires knowledge of that thing that you didn't master, you're going to get stuck because it builds on itself. And so now you have problems. Kids that were doing okay, first, second, third grade, gets to middle school and high school, they start struggling. Guess what? That's exactly what happens in the public system today. Middle and elementary schools generally perform well in the same. Middle school is okay, but when it gets to middle school and high school, academic levels change. We're starting having problems with kids. So maybe we'll start moving that to you can only advance if you are mastering that subject. The challenging is I might master it later than you do. So how do you handle that? You see, the teacher in this model has always had to teach to the middle. You cannot teach to those who are struggling because you alienate and lose everybody else. You cannot teach to the smartest kids who want to go faster because you're going to lose everybody else. So you teach to the middle and hope you get the most out of it. Cross your fingers, hope it works. Right? And so that will change. We will start to see something really amazing, which is we're going to start mirroring that spiritual system that we have, where we're going to get more individualized attention and some coaching. So all that to say that the educational challenges ahead for us are twofold. One is personalization. Can we personalize the education pathway for the student? For all students, not just for some who are struggling. Can we make it so that every single student has their own plan because they learn differently, do different things? Can we adapt to their individual needs? And as a spirit, we add another layer. Can we adapt to their spiritual needs too? And challenge number 2, in my view, is can we help them build these relationships, right? And to work on collaboration and conflict resolution. Why? Again, the challenges we see in our models today are kids are having a tough time learning when they don't feel safe or loved. Those of us who have studied Maslow's pyramids of needs know that, as a human thing, that you need first to be like fed and clothed. You need food before you care about anything else. Once you have food, you need shelter. Once you have shelter, you can think about emotions. If you're not eating, if you don't know where your next food's going to come, your next meal's going to come from, you're not thinking about being nice to other people. Basic instincts. You just want food, right? And once you have food, then you can start worrying about whether you're being nice to people. And only after you have the emotional needs met, you can go into your intellectual needs. So the whole conversation that we have today of like bullying and everything else is our attempt to ensure that we have a safe environment in which kids can grow. Because if a kid goes to school, and we all kind of experience that somehow, right? If you go to a new school and you feel like the odd person out, you are so worried about what everybody else is going to think of you that you're not paying attention to the teacher. You're just worried about, oh my God, they think my genes are cool. Are they going to accept me? Am I going to make any friends? You cannot learn unless you have that emotional need fulfilled. So that's very interesting because we go back to all that we've done here today, which is, have we had emotional teaching in our schools? Did we have instruction growing up on how to make friends, how to talk to people, how to welcome them, how to understand how we feel? You see how our educational system is a little bit slanted? Now, I know that it might seem like a lot of granola for us, right? We're not talking about we need to sit down and sing songs all day long. That's not what we're saying, right? Although Bernadete would have us do that all day long if she could. She was almost grabbing the guitar right now. But her point here, and Vanessa's earlier point, is we have to pay attention to these things so that we can then declog the pipes. So that we feel like we're in a safe environment where we can learn and we can open to each other and ask questions. Have you been in an environment where you don't know the people and you don't want to ask a question because you're afraid that you're going to look dumb? Right? Psychological safety is very important. You need to feel psychologically safe where you are to truly open yourself and expose yourself to the learning. I feel like that every single day, people. So that's why I don't ask questions. And don't ask any questions from me, please. Make sure you ask the workers in the group here. That's a great thing about speaking in places. You come, you speak, and you leave. Right? So you don't have to do that. If you say something bad, you don't have to do the consequences of it. Somebody else deals with it. Thank you, people. Thank you. Thank you, workers of this place and all the Spiritist groups who do the real hard work every single day, who really make a difference. All jokes aside, do you get the idea?
Yeah.
So that's happening already today. This emphasis on social-emotional learning that Bernadete talked about, and we're going to touch a little bit about, it's something that's not just granola. It's important because kids need to be safe and feel like they're in an environment that they can trust. So they can open their little intellectual antennas up to understand the content that they are going to be exposed to. So what we have been learning as a result of our experiences as educators on Earth is that we need to work oftentimes on the emotional context first before we can work on the intellectual. Right? And that's why oftentimes it's challenging for educators on Earth because parents only care about the intellectual piece. If you're a teacher, you might have gotten a parent that says, is there a gifted and talented program because my kid is a genius? And they're all being held back. I don't know about you guys, but all parents think that oftentimes their kid's a genius, right? And grandkids, of course. The grandkids is actually true, but right? But my point here is, and then all educators, teachers, oftentimes feel like, oh my God, that kid again, right? That parent again, and we don't have a dialogue between parents and teachers. We have often outsourced education to schools, which is a grave mistake that we've done, right? As parents, we send our kids to school and then we expect them to be taught everything. And when they're not, we complain. We've outsourced the most precious thing we have. And then we complain when it doesn't go the way we want to. So these are hard questions that I pose to the parents. Are you involved in your kid's education in school? Because you're the first educator. That kid will spend more time with you in your life than he will with any other teacher. In fact, if you expose your kid from year one to TV about 3 hours a day, he will spend more time watching TV by the time he graduates from high school than he actually was at school. So who's educating your kid? School? Netflix. Right? You can work the hours on this. I've done the calculations. So we need to figure that out. What is important to us to make sure that we are personalizing education and making sure that's meaningful content to them. We can leave aside here for now a whole layer about education in the Spiritist Center, which we hope to address later. But as a parent in general, we want to make sure that you're working with your teachers to understand what's happening with your kid. Because it's very challenging for a teacher to work with 20, 30 kids and give all of them personalized attention. The system's not set that way, especially if the teacher has been teaching that way for 20 years. It's hard. And I'm not harping on experienced teachers here. That's not what I mean. But you get the idea. It's hard to change. So, parents, you're first educators. It's so new whether the kid learns or not. It's so new to get involved. The teacher is just a delivery method. Go talk to your teacher. Work with your teacher. Ask your teacher questions. What is my kid struggling with? What can I do to help my kid at home? And when the teacher calls you and says, your kid did this, don't march into the teacher's office and say, why the hell did you talk to my kid about that? Right? They're doing the best they can. But hear the kid's side. You'll be surprised at how many parents do the save piece that we were talking about before. They march in the teacher's office without listening to the teacher because they already heard a version for the kid and they assumed that was the truth. And I don't want to burst your bubble. But sometimes kids don't tell the truth. Or they slightly change it, especially around teenage years. It's not exactly a lie. It could be an omission. Right? We all do this, but you get the point. As a parent, we need, like the Spirit Joanna Angelis tells us, that love educates. It doesn't always just kiss and hug, but it also holds the other accountable in a good way. We need to do that. Now, there's also the other side to this. Educators also have to understand that parents are also trying, and sometimes they don't know how to. Right? Because they're busy, they have 2 jobs, they can't make ends meet. They're worried about different things. You might have heard about the word deficit thing. Parents who are work 2 jobs and so forth oftentimes have challenge just talking to the kids at home because they're so tired. They don't engage, nurture the parent. And we heard here before from Vanessa the importance of engaging, giving that personal attention to the kid. And so by age 7, oftentimes parents who don't have this, they have spoken 1,000,000 words less to their kid than another parent who give that attention. So the kid has received 1,000,000 words less stimuli than other kids. And so they might find some developmental barriers and challenges that need more attention, which oftentimes parents can give because they're trying to make it. It's a difficult cycle. And that's why sometimes we have a big change and difference in public school systems in our country. Right? I want to leave that aside because you know how I feel about that, or I hope you don't know how I feel about that. That's what we're talking here the whole day, about the inequities of stuff. But here's what I want to get at. I want to get at that there's a great important participation there, and that both parents and educators need to communicate. The challenge is that oftentimes parents don't really want to get engaged in the kids' school. They feel like if they do box stops for education or whatever it is, if they send money in, they've done their part. Right? And teachers are like, oh, the parents going to come in here, I'd rather not talk to them. So it's got to work both ways. Everybody needs to get in there. Now, why do I say all of that? Because I think that as Spiritists, and we look at educating the new generation, we also have the benefit of understanding the spiritual side of things. And like we talked about with the new generation, we also understand that the kids that we have are really immortal spirits. They might just be bottled in very cute little flasks. Right? God is so gracious and good that God has given us this maternal instinct, a paternal instinct that makes us love those little terrorists. Everybody loves their terrorist. But everybody else's terrorists are like unbearable. Right? God's smart, because otherwise this species would not have gone on. Because we would have abandoned them. Right? Because they have the power to drive you nuts. Just enough. And when you think you're going to explode, they come and they hug you and kiss you. And they say, I love you, mommy and daddy. And you're like, ah. Right? And then you can do this again next day. But they are immortal spirits. And we're the stewards of immortal spirits. So we need to work on what's best for them. The guide on the side. They're not ours. They're spirits of themselves who have been entrusted to us so that we can shepherd them into a greater understanding of everything, including the spiritual realm. So if you don't talk about spirituality to your kids, who is going to do it?
Are they afraid for kids?
Are decorated kids for kids. That's great. That's absolutely fantastic. But parents need to do it. I'm going to ask you a hard question here. It's a rhetorical question. Or a comment. Don't expect to outsource the spiritual education of your kids to your Spiritist group. Because the kids will come here maybe 50 hours a year, 1 hour per week. Be with a group of kids they may not know, and still go to the whole emotional thing of not paying attention. And if you think about it, 50 hours a year aren't going to go very far in terms of education. If your kid is watching 2 hours of Netflix a day, a TV a day, in a week, that's 15. A month, that's 16. So in a month, if your kid's watching 2 hours of TV, he's being exposed to more hours of contact than your kid will have the Spiritist group in a year. So how effective will that education of the Spiritist that we can provide at the Spiritist group? It's more important to light that fire of being excited about the group. And that's why we talk about social emotional learning. That's why Bernadete does these fun things, because it's important for the kids to come back and have the the joy of connecting, right? William Butler Yeats said something beautiful. Education is not the filling of a bucket, but the lighting of a fire. We're not just going to go and say, all right, here you go, Kardec. Here's Spirit. Because when the kid gets to be 14, 13 years old, or 16, or whatever it is, he might not come back. Because you're not making him anymore. Right? So we need to ask our questions about that too. And that's why we say that we ought to look at the greatest teacher that ever lived, the Christ. And I love this because, as you might remember from your New Testament reading, he refused a lot of titles. People called him good, right, and so forth. There's only one title that he accepted and owned it. And according to John 13 here, you can see 13:13, he says, "You can call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. So I have come to teach you how to live." And in his teachings, we can derive a lot of meanings on how to educate ourselves and our tiny little humans, which are immortal spirits, dressed as very cute little ones. Right? And what did he say, for instance, which I find fascinating, which is really hard for us sometimes? He says, this is in Matthew 19. He says, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." What I love about that quote, and I oftentimes ask myself that, is not what he says, is what he doesn't say. What is it that he does not say? He's not saying, this is what he's not saying. He's not saying, bring them to me, force them to come to me, and I'll show them. Make sure they come to me, and I will teach them. You see the subtlety of his words? He says, let them come to me. So our job is not to force feed stuff into our kids, especially spiritual stuff. Because when they can walk away from it, they will. Our job is to lead them to the water and let them get there by themselves, respecting their free will. Daniel, that is in total accordance with Spiritism. Free will. Boom. Mind blown. Does it make sense? I'll give you another example of things that sometimes we do out of the kindness of our heart and are misguided. Little Johnny is misbehaving. Little Danny is misbehaving. So the teacher says, little Danny, go to that corner over there, pick up a book and read. And you're not going to come out of there when I'm ready to tell you. So what have we just done? We just equated reading with punishment. Every time little Danny gets in trouble, he's told to read. When he's not in trouble, will he ever read? No. You get my drift? Or we say, little Johnny, you're in trouble, go to your room, where you find your PS3, your Netflix, right? You just got them free time. So we ought to change from those punitive ways to a coaching way, like we did earlier, to understand that. And I think this is what Jesus is telling us. We need to let the children come to him. So we need to expose them to it, but we cannot force them, because otherwise, right? So there might be a little point in us forcing them specific curricula of things that we want them to learn if we don't spark their interest to learn first. Let me ask you a question, for instance. And this is a case that I hear very often. I hear people that say, can you talk to this kid because he's going to high school now and he doesn't want to talk about God anymore? Oh, have you talked to God? No. So have you talked to him about God? No. So now at 14, 15, 16, you want a stranger to come into your kid. He's never met that stranger. That stranger is bald, big, and ugly. And you want that stranger to tell your kid about God and convince your kid to, from now on, like God? How is that going to work? Not so much. Right? I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just kind of trying to rationalize things here with you. I hope you understand this. Right? So we can't outsource that to anybody else. So the question here is, when the children come to you, what do you want them to know or do? Because we don't have a lot of time with them. What are the one or two things, if you could teach your kids, what are the one or two things you want them to know? If you could teach them nothing else. This is an exercise we can do in our own role play. We're not going to do it today for time. But think about this. It might not be who was Allan Kardec. It might not be what year the Spiritist book was published. But it might be something like, I want my kid to be respectable, or have self-esteem, or know how to care for others, and how to love others, on how to love God, or whatever it is. Everyone can have a different approach, and that's okay, because everyone's different. But boil down to what is most important to pass on to your kid. And then pass on the love and the spark so that they can go out and find that for themselves and be ready to be that guide on the side to have conversations with them, as opposed to standing on a podium telling you, thou shalt do this. Because our kids from this new generation don't respond to authority. Because there's even a term these days for a lot of us that deal with kids, and I say a lot of us like politely because I'm a bureaucrat basically, but all those that are in the front line, they call it oppositional defiance, where a kid will oppose you just because. You said, all right, everybody sit down. Nope. Have you ever done that? Yeah. All right, everybody, let's go outside and play. Nope. Right? So, oppositional defiance. It's a symptom. All these behaviors and challenges, they are not a problem in themselves. They're symptoms of something else. And that's why we move on and take another lesson from the ultimate teacher, which says also in John a little bit later, when he gives us a new commandment, which I find fascinating, is one of the great things. I'm not going to talk much about it, but I love how we always remember, like, do unto others what we like them to do unto us, where in this passage here before that, he gives us an upgraded commandment, which is do unto others what I will do unto them. Anyways, long story. That's an idea that's been for me for a while. He's upped the ante. He doesn't want us to treat others as we would like to be treated. He says before he leaves, a new commandment I give you, a new commandment I leave you. Love one another as I have loved you. So Jesus and his behavior is the barometer. It's not what we want. Because oftentimes what we want is not there yet. But anyways, I diverge. We got off my soapbox. What he says here right after when he says, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. What is it that he did not say? By this you will love one another. You will know one if you're my disciples, if you're smarter than everybody else, or if you know everything. He didn't say these things. He says, if you love one another, if you know how to care for each other, interact with each other, collaborate with each other, and avoid all the challenges that we're having. So that's why we make a point of talking about social emotional learning, which is the process of helping students develop these skills, right? To manage their emotions, which is really important. Set positive goals for themselves, because you need to know how to manage yourselves and set goals for yourself. Resolve conflicts non-violently, because punching each other out until one wins is not really a solution for the long term, because now we know about reincarnation. And make responsible decisions, which we can all agree we can all do more of. Right? Why? When this happens, research has shown us that we have been able to reduce violence and aggression among children. Makes sense. They're not going to be aggressive towards somebody they know and they like. They can't hide behind a keyboard when that person is your friend in real life. You're going to think twice about saying something offensive. They're going to increase academic performance because they're going to feel safe. They're going to have to, they have the ability to function better in school and the workplace, and they're going to build relationships everywhere that will help them succeed and lead a more self-fulfilling life. So the process of learning necessarily will begin by the social emotional part. This all we know. These kids nowadays, they don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. You might be the greatest expert of Harvard in 5 generations. They don't know you, they don't care. Now, if you show a little bit of attention, then they care. Then they will listen to you. So what is it that we as parents and educators are doing to make sure that every kid and every spirit, for that matter, is seen, known, and valued? How can you make sure that you see them for who they are, our immortal spirits, that you take time to know who they are, and value them? Do you do that with your kids every day? I see you, I know what you're doing, and I love you. And I appreciate you. I see you, I know you're there, I heard you, I understood what you're saying, and I know that you like to do this, but you cannot do this because this is not good for you, and I'm your parent. But I love you. So, seen, known, and valued. What is it that we do every single day to make sure that our kids, Spiritist group, or outside, our children, or that of our neighbors, are seen? Not like kid walks around. I didn't been to a conversation when adults come in, and they say, hey, John, how are you doing? Hey, little Marcy, how are you doing? Hey, John. They go back and they ignore the kid. And then the kid holding parents just there, right? And the adults continue to talk without the kid being there. And then we talk about the kid. Oh, yeah, little Marcy has been struggling at school. And there's little Marcy right there listening to all this, right? How would you feel? We know they're immortal spirits. They're registering that. Even if they're not consciously registering, they are registering at a spiritual level. And we're talking about them as if they were not there. We're kids. Right? So don't talk to your kids that way if they're around. Don't talk about other kids if they're around like that. Acknowledge them. Make sure that they're seeing, hey, Marcy, how are you? How are you doing in school? Really? Do the questions, people. What do you like most about it? That's a great question for you to ask all the time, right? Other than what's your name? What did you do today? What did you like most? Force them to think more than just tell you things. And answers are fantastic, by the way. And say, that's great. I'm really happy and proud of all the work that you're putting into it. And sometimes even comments like, oh, wow, you're so smart. Work against the kid. Because now the kid thinks smart is a value. That you either are or you aren't. And so oftentimes now in education, we try to shy away from that because if kids sometimes feel like this is a task that's really hard for them, they don't want to tackle that. Because they feel like if they fail, you're going to think they're not smart, so they just avoid it. Right? So there's a wonderful little book for all of us who are not very academically minded called Mindset. If you want to take a read about this kind of stuff, Dr. Carol Dweck, I love her, really easy. But what we can do instead is like, wow, you did great. I can see that you put a lot of effort into it. What message are we sending? If you put effort, you will be successful at this. Maybe that's a different thing that we want to do with our kids. But all in all, as we look into educating the new generation, I just want to remind all of us that the new generation is indeed different for social and spiritual reasons. And that things have changed for sure. And that we need a new way of looking at how we educate kids, a way in which leads us to personalize and adapt their learning to include social emotional learning so they can feel at ease, comfortable to learn and move on. And then we need to bring that spiritual layer that Spiritism is so great to tell us about immortal spirit. There's a spirit there. I mean, why is this wiser than all of us put together? Right? Pooping on his diapers. It's a contradiction, but it's there. Let's not just look at kids as little tiny humans. Look at them as an immortal spirit, just like you. And recognize that we need to let them come to the greatest teacher that ever was, which means we need to expose them to it, respecting their individuality, not force feeding it to them, but we ought to let them come. Because if we don't do it, nobody else will. If you don't talk to your kids about spirituality, God, nobody else will. Do not outsource the education of your children. Outsource their instruction, but not the education. Because if you do, then you do not have a right to complain about it, because you're not doing it. I repeat it. If you outsource the education of your kid, you cannot complain about the outcome, because you didn't do it. Right? You had somebody else take care of it, so you can't complain about it. But the beauty of it, as immortal spirit, is we know that this new generation will also bring great things. It's also great learning for all of us. Not only how to treat kids, but to treat as another. Because these kids are going to be our parents when we come back in November. Let's teach them so that they can treat us better when we come back. Let's make sure that all of them are seen for who they are, known for what they do or do not do, not judged, valued and appreciated every single thing that they are, because like us, they're children from God, and that's just amazing. So in the bottom of my heart, I hope you continue the conversation about education and what's better and best to do with people around you. Ask questions is a really difficult topic. Nobody is truly an expert on all of it. Seek different perspectives like we had here today. And I hope that you approve of the search for different ways of looking into things, because we know people are different. People need different approaches. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to wish you that which I think is the best thing in the world, and that is peace from Christ, our teacher. Be always with you in your hearts and with your kids and with all of us. Thank you for your attention, people.
Hey everyone, let's start again. Yeah. Oh, we're just gonna wait for Bernadette. A Q&A. So we're just gonna start our Q&A session. So we're gonna start the questions. If you guys have questions, we have very few questions. So I would recommend placing your questions during the vote, and then we can read it. As we finish reading, then you can raise your hands and ask the questions if you guys want. Yeah, let's read those first, and then we go from there. Raquel is gonna read the questions through.
All of them? All right, it doesn't say who the question is for, so I'll just read it. So you did see it. How to deal with the formality that our kids learn from school most of the time regarding their emotions. I feel like they tend to teach kids that's not okay being sad, for example, instead of guiding them through emotion control. It can be a sensitive topic and very confusing for the kids.
So the method we are using is we talk about emotions. For example, in the Spiritist Center in Virginia, since Virginia was born, we created a Spiritist group for babies and toddlers, and it includes the parents. And the Spirits have given us even songs to work on emotional education for babies and parents. And one of the things is, the first thing we do is like, it's okay. So one of the songs is like this, and it tells us the motto. It's like, you know, the Wheels on the Bus song. So that's the rhythm, and then it's like, the wheels of my heart go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels of my heart go round and round, round and round to God. And if you're a little sad, that's okay, that's okay. Let us pray. And that's the first approach we should take is first validate the feeling. Whatever it is, we say, I understand, I feel you, and then, if possible, approach hugging and trying to create that calmness, that, you know, the consoling approach. But not that you're going to do the job. And next, you say, it's okay. You know, it's fine to feel, and then we name it. It's not only okay, nothing. It's okay to be, so we need to do our homework to know the names of emotions. Because if our children are feeling something, we don't know the name, we're not going to be able to help. When scientists created in the 90s the term emotional intelligence, they defined it by using 3 pillars. Emotional intelligence depends on our monitoring of our emotions, the emotions of others. 1, to know the difference between others and ours. And 3rd, to know what to do and what to think based on this. But to monitor means, you know, when you go to the hospital, they're monitoring your heartbeat, your oxygen level, meaning at any moment a doctor can come in, look at the screen and know levels of oxygen, etc. So at any moment, the person who has good levels of emotional intelligence will tell you, that's how I'm feeling. How often we ask, how you feel? I don't know. So we're still basic. And no, monitor other people's feelings, not meaning we're being nosy, but just meaning like we know. We Spiritists would add another element, the spiritual, because we're never alone. Assessing the spiritual too is part of the emotional intelligence. For us Spiritists, we can't forget, being emotionally intelligent also means assessing the vibratory field we're entering, we're connecting, the people we're talking to, not necessarily we're talking to them, we may be talking to their spiritual network. Maybe it's not even them, or it's a part of them. So what is it? And then once I know, I differentiate. So I protect myself from emotional contagion. Many people will repress, shut down, or deny because they're afraid of being contaminated by it. It's what we call emotional contagion. So we tend for self-preservation to either ignore, as we've seen, deny, repress, punish, to push away. You know, if you watch the Frozen movie, when you're in fear, you shut people out. Right? You isolate, create that barrier, the icy barrier. That's exactly the human mind. So basically, by validating and breathing, parents and other kids need to breathe too. They come, not necessarily we have to do anything. So they come and, oh, okay. So they breathe in, breathe out. What you're feeling, it's frustration, it's sadness, and it's okay because it comes and goes. And then we talk like the coaching approach, and easily we get it out. It's so effective that I remember Virginia when she was 2. First month in a preschool, the teacher came to me and said, there was a girl in the playground from another classroom. She was crying. Virginia walked towards her and said, patting on her shoulder, saying, that's okay. Breathe. You're fine. I almost said, did she name the emotion to her? That's too nice. But it's like they really absorb it and they become so secure later because they're not going to be afraid of their own emotions. They're going to know it's okay to be an emotional being because we are. We can't pretend that we're not. That's our foundation.
Yeah, I was just thinking because I was a product of that in the United States anyway, of the feel-good self-esteem movement. So we were told that any feeling that was negative was somehow should not be. And it would be, and even if an emotion came out like if somebody cried in a classroom, a lot of American teachers will just go, oh, that can't happen. So I can't have any emotions because I'm too afraid that if someone cries, that I don't know what to do. And what if the parents get upset and they find out that my child cried and their child cried in the middle of the classroom, and it's just horrifying to us. But you're saying that actually we should normalize this, that it's part of life, and it's not like, yeah, I was just going to, go ahead.
I'm just going to say quickly about the teacher perspective. And you answer. As a teacher, it's not that we are not allowed to teach sad or happy. It's just, we have a lot of pressure. We are busy. We have a lot to do, and sometimes we don't have time to deal with this. Second, there are teachers that don't know how to handle their own feelings. So when they see somebody upset and frustrated, they freak out, right? And of course, we have all kinds of teachers. Like me, I freely talk about feelings. Well, so we're going to sit and talk about feelings. I have happy face, sad face, point how you're feeling if you cannot say. From a parent perspective, a suggestion that you can do. Talk to your child about your teacher. Say, teachers, they have feelings just like you, and sometimes they have a hard time. That doesn't mean that they do not care. So if your teacher is just not allowing you to be happy, they said it's just, she's busy, but she cares and she loves you. One thing that I do with my kids, because they're extremely emotional, and being here girls at the age of 9, they're already having their periods, okay? So imagine the hormone in the classroom, the crying, the drama, and they don't know what's going on. And then you have to teach the academics. So I told my kids, I love and I care about you. And if I don't give you attention because I don't have time, write me about your feelings. And I have a bunch of letters. So as a parent, try this. Tell your child, write how you feel, what's going on, and give it to your teacher. See your teacher's reaction. Because later we feel guilty. And we feel, oh my gosh, and when they do this, I don't know, do you have a minute after school? Can we talk? The child is helping the teacher to deal with all feelings.
But it's not only the child, because unfortunately, at the academic level, we face the same struggle, right? We as university teachers have the same dialogue, talking about our colleagues, how many students came from other colleagues of mine, my office, crying. Because can you believe it, Dr. Anseloni? When I was there trying, they're going to become dentists. And I was trying to do this procedure instead of the teacher coming and showing the practicum. They said, you have to come here. And they were very rude. And I said, okay. If they didn't do it, you're going to be hurt. So that's the same for kids. It's for academic level too, unfortunately, right?
For sure, yeah.
We talk about it all the time.
This is a great example of how we are the transition generation. It's hard for them to talk about it if they haven't learned about it. And they haven't learned. Credentialing programs for teachers, the official teaching programs, oftentimes don't cover this kind of things. Actually, they're really bad in general. So the teacher is struggling. I love that you brought that point because the teacher is struggling. I think it goes back to other things that we said. Make sure you work with them, like Vanessa described, to teach their feelings because you can't outsource that to the school. Maybe go talk to the teacher as well as a parent. Teach the kid, but also say, hey, this is what happened. I'd love for you to help us through this. and wake the teacher up for that part as well. He really does. So it's a combination of things, right? So do that yourself, but go back and make sure that the teacher knows. Talk to the teacher.
What to do, how to raise children within Spiritism when you are married to a person from another religion.
So I guess the way I tackle this is I am not raising my kid to be a Spiritist. I am raising my kid to be a good citizen, a spiritual being. I would very much like him to be a Spiritist, because I think Spiritism is fantastic and teaches wonderful things. But if he decides to be something else, right? And so I don't make the distinction of, oh my God, my partner is not a Spiritist, or it is, or whatever it is. I say the fundamental part, and I think our duty as kids, is to make our kids be the best human beings they can possibly be. And we hope that includes a really great layer of spirituality and God awareness and kindness and everything else, which are not only possessions of Spiritism. I know a lot of Spiritist people who are more, I know a lot of non-Spiritist people or atheists. They're more Spiritist than a lot of my Spiritist friends or myself, because they are kinder, they get the whole piece. They just call it by a different name, right? So I would say let's not focus too much on the labels, but instead find the common ground, because whatever religion there might be, there will be an emphasis on God, on justice, on caring for each other, and so forth. And then, you know, with time, talk to your partner as well. This is an important decision. We see that a lot of that happening. A conversation. Maybe there's a little bit of compromise there, because maybe your partner also has a desire to expose that child to a different culture, or there might be something that comes out of this. And I think the wonderful thing for me about Spiritism is that it's so encompassing. It's so broad that if we are truly doing our kid favor and exposing our kid to Spiritism, the fact that the kid is also exposed to other religions will be a plus. Because with Spiritist knowledge, the kid will be able to see all the values that we find in Spiritism in other religions too. So I feel like it's not a competition, right? That we just have to kind of refocus a little bit. But I know it's hard because we all have our ways of doing things. So I'll also look at that relationship and see how can we navigate the relationship between the adults, right? Because maybe we have to kind of figure out what's happening there. Maybe we haven't openly talked about our beliefs with our partners, or we have challenges that we haven't fully mitigated or talked through over there, that we feel the kid has to pick one or the other. The very interfaith basis of Spiritism, it's a fantastic thing. I think that's why Kardec said, when he was asked, will Spiritism be the religion of the future? And he said, no, it will be the future of religion. Right? So I think that you can be something else and still hold those beliefs close to you. So I would say, what is it that's most important for your kid? And I hope that as you do that and you expose your kid to it, your kid will see the beauty of this wonderful thing that we call Spiritism, which for me knocks my socks off, because I personally have not had exposure to anything else that comes close to the breadth and depth of Spiritism, how it makes me feel about the world, how wonderful it is. But my sister, raised in the same household with the same parents, still struggles a little bit because she chose something else, right? We have to be okay with that too. It's part of that thing I think that we were talking about before, like we want the best for our kids, but sometimes our best is not the best for them. So it's really hard because it makes us question what is it that we want and how we approach things. So by all means, whatever it is that you do expose them to God, to spirituality, to kindness, to whatever it is that you want to call it. And do talk to your partner about this. This isn't a one-sided decision, right? Parents don't get to exclusively decide what their kids are going to do when they grow up. They're a great input in the process, but go through the process, kind of talk it out. I feel like there's lots of things in that question that need to be extricated. The relationship between the parents, understanding of spiritism, what is it that we want for kids, what is it that kids will do for themselves. Lots of difficult things in there. But the good thing is don't shy away from the question. So I also see a lot of people say, you know what, we can't agree, so we don't do anything. Right? And that's the real damage. That is the real damage, let's be honest with you. Because to grow up in the world of today without the belief in something greater than us, it's really easy to get distracted and lose ourselves into the material way of things. That is a disfavor that we do to our kids, right? I personally would much rather have my kid grow up to be, I don't know, a Buddhist, than to grow up without believing in anything else. And I think that's ultimately what we need to kind of, at least from my perspective, but I should pass it on here because I think we can all.
My daughter, she's about to turn 20, and I didn't raise her as a spiritism, as a spiritist. At the time, I'm remarried. Her father was not a spiritist. He didn't accept that. And even my husband today, he is not a spiritist. He doesn't want to know anything about it, but he says, if that makes you happy, I notice that this makes you a better person, go and do it. I won't stop you. But what I did, I said, I'm going to teach her spiritual values and moral values. So I taught her about love, about praying, about God and Jesus. I didn't teach her Spiritist concept for a long time. Then she went to Unity Church. And she studied there. She went to children's camp. And as she got a little bit older, but she knew I was going to Spiritist centers. And then I started to say, look, in Spiritism, we believe in this, and this makes sense to me. Now, in other religions, they think differently. So I started teaching her religious tolerance. And then later she said, okay, now what you're telling me, as she turns 12, 13, is so logic. It makes sense. Can you tell me more about it? But I didn't make a big deal. And she says, and you think differently, Mom. I noticed that your actions are different. Is this because of Spiritism? So it has a lot to do with it. Because I think about before I say things and do. So when I started teaching her, the transition was really fast because it was logic. And I respected that I gave the foundation. By this time, she knew God, talk about God, pray. And today she goes to another church. She's been to many churches. And then she comes home sometimes and says, oh, Mom, I love going to that church, but when they talk about hell, I just shut up. I go, good baby, just take what is good from there. Don't judge. You know, that worked with me.
No extra comments. Everything just
directed to you. Why more than ever teens are being diagnosed with attention disorder? Isn't this a society mechanism to protect teens from lack of commitment or lack to put more effort into school or other activities?
who are we to have the full answer, right?
That's hard. That's a hard one.
But for every equation, there are many elements, many factors. So let's consider contributing factors to the equation. First and foremost, we all agree that the status, the dynamics of parenting nowadays is completely twisted. Nobody will ever be raised healthy the way majority of parents are treating their kids in the United States. And I say specifically to the United States of America. And second, the educational system covered by Daniel, clear cut, either changes or else. It really creates a whole lot of stress. And stress is good at acute levels, at chronic levels. It's very damaging. So it's impossible to be well. But we as spiritists, we understand the reincarnatory components of it all. And we can't, talk about all of this and not bring the main element to the equation. This is a generation that is supposed to succeed because nobody is born to fail. The plan is we're gonna be able to progress in these conditions. So there are elements when we're talking about parenting styles. One of the questions we need to ask, which is pertaining to this too, is if I have these parents and I am under this system, instead of bashing everyone, like empower the kid. Like, hey, do you think God would be unfair to make you be in this situation, not give you tools to get out and succeed? Let's go find them. The day before we traveled here, the day before, we were in the Spiritist Center, and the neighbor of John DeRosa, who is the voice of the Spirits. If you don't know, the Spirits book is already in audio format. Two wonderful American friends and Spiritists, John DeRosa and Steve Shepard. They recorded 3 full years, the whole audiobook. It's there, kardecradio.com. And his neighbor's not a Spiritist. He said, Vanessa, can I bring the daughter? She's 18 years old and she's struggling in college. Yeah, she came. And she's exactly the scenario we're talking about. Depression, anxiety, all these issues that we're seeing with the youth in the United States. If you dig in, like parenting style, the dynamics of our education, the dynamics, the isolation that people feel nowadays. As Daniel was saying, we are so connected, but at the same time, so alone. It's so paradoxical. What do we do with it? Then I asked the experimenters in the fraternal assistance moment, what's happening here? He said, Vanessa, she was born prepared to go through this and succeed. Empower her. She lost her father recently, and she's basically feeling lonely, almost like at the edge of suicide. Then, in this case, for ADHD, depression, anxiety, all these are mental disorders that are deeply founded in behavioral issues, emotional issues. We can't lose sight of the reincarnatory factors playing a role. So that's why we need to go back and empower the youth and say, do you believe in God? Yes. Do you think God is loving? Yes. Do you think God would allow you to be reborn without resources to succeed? We need to find them. They exist. We just to dig for them. But we need support. Law of society. ADHD is a major disorder that tells about the dysfunction of our society. We're trying, as social beings, not to live in society, as David described. So we need to rescue the dynamics, and we cannot do this alone. One individual cannot do alone, and all we do for all the youth and children who come to the School of Devotion, to the Spiritist Centers, who contact us through spiritistparenting.org, we say, it's a family issue. It's not your child's issue. It's not your teenager's issue. It's everyone involved. Why? Because your spirits were vibrating. Sometimes they're just reacting to it. The spiritual network of theirs is also contributing to this response of attention deficit disorder, because sometimes it's so hard to face the sensory stimulation we have, the vibrational stimulation that we prefer to escape. Joanna de Angelis talks about this mechanism we have in our minds as a spirit. We tend to escape from things that are too harmful, threatening. So we need to validate, understand, and talk, and therapeutically support that soul back into, without the labels. As a psychologist, I tell you the truth, as a scientist, and I say, science doesn't know everything. Thank God. So you go to a doctor, do what Chico Xavier used to do, pray before you go. Because doctors are humans just like us. Their ego will feel the need to put a label, but they don't care when you leave what you're going to do with the label. So don't ask for labels because they are useless. And there is no perfect bullet for any disorder because it's not in the physical body. No matter how hard scientists try, it's never going to happen. The golden bullet for any disorder is not going to be given in a medication.
Do you have time for me? That's it.
Guys, unfortunately, we don't have time for any more questions. Unfortunately. Oh, fortunately. So, I would like to invite Marge and Carol here if they could just talk about a minute about the Cardiac Radio and the program that they do with the kids. And then after that, Vanessa will do the therapeutic visualization and the final prayer.
I can start.
Yeah, it's, well, hello, and it's been ever since last year, actually the beginning of, we started on Kardic's birthday last year. So it's been about a year now that we've done Cardiac Radio for Kids, which is a weekly program that we put together basically in our living room using resources. With the kids program, we started with books, and then gradually we've just started moving into stories and other things that come to our minds. We constantly looking for ideas and stuff. So if you have ideas for a program, please send it to us. Yeah, we're really excited about this program. It's available on cardiacradio.com, and it's been something that we felt a need for. Parents driving the car around or something, you need something to have the kids listen to. It's a program that we hope will inspire children to think about God, to think about Jesus, to think about the higher purpose of life and so forth. So we try best we can to create make the program fun for young children. For the teenagers, maybe I don't know if you'd like to say more about the kids program.
I would just like to say that the program is intended to be fun. So we hope that the kids have a lot of fun and they learn, as we call him, Big Brother Jesus is always by their side. So we sing songs and we say prayers, and we always involve Big Brother Jesus as we sing it, and we call them to be part of the Big Brother Jesus love team, and we even talk about them wearing I love you sunglasses and everything. So the program is literally stories from our heart to the children's hearts, and we see them as immortal spirits who are here to succeed. So the program, like they said, is like a shower of love from our heart to their hearts, and it can be used as a gospel in the home or God at home for them, because we always tell a story, sing a song, invite them to be best friends with Big Brother Jesus, and say a prayer from our hearts to their hearts. And we also do cardiac radio for teens on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock, cardiacradio.com, with Via Lopez, who is a wonderful young adult, part of a group in Connecticut. And she is doing a study of the Spiritist book for teenagers. And Marcus and I are following her lead, of course, by translating a book written by the Spiritist Federation of Espírito Santo and published by Dr. André Moreira. And it's a diary of teenagers. Alice, Mark, and Belinda, myself. And we talk about all the taboos that are normally shoved under the carpet, including drinking and relationships, using drugs, sexually transmitted diseases, and everything. And we do so in a kind of a radio-type soap opera. We dramatize their lives. So we hope that not only teenagers, but adults can also enjoy it, because we certainly do. Thank you, guys.
All right, so we're going to invite Vanessa again. Thanks, guys, for letting us know this awesome program. So it's 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday.
It's all on iTunes.
Oh, iTunes as well. And what about the kids one? Like what time? Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay. All right. So we're gonna invite Vanessa again. She's gonna do a therapeutic visualization, and then we're gonna do our final prayer.
Let us feel ourselves being showered with healing flowers. Let us breathe in and out and feel the fragrance of these healing flowers all over us. Loving spirit doctors, nurses, and therapists entering the room to apply the passes. We help them out by breathing in acceptance, breathing out in gratitude, breathing in and out. And at the healing touch of their loving hands, they whisper in our ears, "You are light. You are peace. You are joy of living." And they repeat it, "You are light. You are peace. You are joy of living. Let us feel their therapeutic embrace and visualize all the loving spirits connected to the changes and transformations of the earth. Reaching out to every single school on the planet, from the simplest to the most complex ones, and illuminated teachers approaching all the teachers of each school and guiding them to the new path of immortal education. And we visualize the Spiritist spirits, May and Professor Euripides Barçanufo, guiding them all so they don't hesitate to fulfill the reincarnatory plan of needed transformations for the new generations. And even higher spirits from the apostleship group of Jesus, from the school of the gospel in the higher realms, come even closer to our planet, and we visualize a new era unfolding before our eyes. Let us feel ourselves connected to all of them and courageously, obediently embracing the call. And as if we hear the hymns of joy of the loving spirits connected to the heart of the Christ of the earth, we raise our thoughts to the Lord of our lives in gratitude. O Master Jesus, sweet and kind, firm and determined, thank you. Thank you for teaching us. Thank you for guiding us. And thank you especially for showing the way to each one of us. Thank you for your unconditional love and for the opportunity you are giving us to work, to serve, to learn, to be useful, and to reach out to one another. May we learn the needed humility so we can listen more to you and be good students of yours, our certain ultimate teacher. Thank you for the opportunity of being together, for the loving spirits who conceded this opportunity, for the organization of these sublime moments. And may we multiply it sooner than later with responsibility and love for the good. May this Spiritist Center and all the centers in California always feel your blessings and your call. And so be it. Hi, I just would like to thank you all for being here today. It's been 3 months that we have been working very hard in this event, and I want to thank you, all volunteers. I think it was awesome. I'm very happy with the day, and I want to thank you very much, Vanessa, for being here today. And Bernadette, thank you so much. And Daniel, where are you? Thank you so much for bringing this, so much knowledge and light and good words. Thank you all. Thank you very much. And thank you our mentors and God and the good spirits of Joanna de Angelis, Amelia Rodriguez, Veneranda from No Solar, who is, of course, here with us right now. Thank you all.
A round of applause for